Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. Bowl season is here, and this is part number one with our leadoff hitter for bowl season, going over the first 17 bowl games. So we'll have at least one more, maybe two more segments here to finish out bowl season. But without further ado, our leadoff hitter, Matt Josephs, ESPN Richmond. Follow him on Twitter at MidMajor Matt. Matt, welcome in. How you feeling?
Feeling good, Drew. I love betting on bowl season, but there's a couple of different things that people have to do when they want to bet these games. They can't just treat them like any old week 3 non-conference matchup. So certainly we're here to help give as much information as possible.
Absolutely, guys. Get you on some of the right side of these moves. Get you on some of the right side of these bets, totals, and sides. It's all coming your way. Brought to you by BetOnline, betonline.ag, and Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. We got first game up here Saturday. We're going in rotation order, so this one's 2:15 Eastern time. Jacksonville State and Louisiana Lafayette. This one coming to us from Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. -2 in the hook. That is Jacksonville State from CUSA, Conference USA, versus the Sun Belt Ragin' Cajuns, 58.5 being the total. So first one up in rotation order here, Matt. Jacksonville State, Louisiana Lafayette. What are you liking?
Well, I mean, Jacksonville State's been very kind to me throughout this whole season, and everybody kind of knows their story. And if you don't, it's their first year in the FBS. They were not going to go to a bowl game unless they couldn't fill all the slots, and they couldn't fill all the slots. So both them and JMU and Minnesota, as the only 5 and 7 team, all were able to go to bowl games. So obviously, this is a team that's going to be highly motivated. And you're going to hear us talk a lot about motivation level. You're going to hear us a lot of talk about opt-outs and transfer portals and things like that, because that's all important. And this is why you can't treat this as a week 3 game, because there's going to be a lot of players who are out. So let's go over the two teams here. Jacksonville State has their kicker in the portal, and he's a pretty good kicker. So that's kind of something to watch here. Maybe either they go for it more or they play a backup kicker. And then, some things go wrong here. We know how college kickers are. J-Rock Swain, who's one of their better defensive linemen, is doubtful for the game as well. So that's kind of an issue here. And then you look at Louisiana. Louisiana starting linebacker Kendra Gant is in the portal, and their starting left tackle is out due to injury. Now, one of the other things I kind of like to look at here is what's your record versus the other bowl teams? How did you get to your record this season? Did you beat a lot of bad teams, or did you beat a lot of good teams? Jacksonville State, 2-3. Louisiana 2-5, and you're going to notice a lot of the Sun Belt teams have a lot more numbers. The Sun Belt put 12 teams into bowl season. So I think a lot of people talk about motivation here, and they say, all right, we're just going to take Jacksonville State because they're the more motivated team. Louisiana is going to be home. There's going to be a lot more people there, I would say, for Louisiana, but I think Jacksonville State will be well represented. Jacksonville State opened up as the underdog here, Drew. I thought that was rather interesting. And for the longest time, they were now a 3-point favorite in this game. And as you mentioned, a lot of 2.5s popping up here because I think some people realize that Louisiana is not a joke here. I know they're on their third string quarterback and Chandler Fields, but Fields played a lot in this offense. He knows this system. So I like Jacksonville State. My lean is in that direction. I think they'll be happy to be here. I think their running game is going to be good. The other thing to kind of watch out here for is both teams are really fast offensively. So the over could come into play. You could see a lot of possessions between these two teams, although they are both run-based offenses.
Sure, and it's in the Superdome down there where the New Orleans Saints play their home games, so we get kind of the controlled climate as well. Shouldn't be any, antics in terms of moving the football. You bring up the Sun Belt. I mean, this is one of the most, if not the most, teams that any conference has put into bowl season, and as long as I can remember, Matt. And I want to add on a stat here, get your opinion. Since 2014, when the current playoff system started, the Sun Belt is actually the best winning percentage bowl conference in bowl season. I mean, how much do you kind of factor that in from the past? This Sun Belt Conference has really excelled.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so much maybe the past, but I will start using early results to kind of, make some changes maybe later on. Certainly, this is a matchup between the Sun Belt and Conference USA, and I'm not a big Conference USA guy. I will lean usually to the Sun Belt. It's just in this situation, I kind of like Jacksonville State a little bit more than Louisiana. At 3, and I think it even got up to 3.5. At 3.5, I would have been very interested in Louisiana. At 2.5, maybe I'm a little bit more interested in Jacksonville State. This could be a money line piece if you want to pair it off with somebody else here. I just think Rich Rodriguez is going to have his team ready because they're going to be one of the most motivated teams of anybody in bowl season.
Good start here, Matt. First game in the books. We got 6 games on Saturday to kick us off. Next one up, 3:30 Eastern, 2:05, 2:06. Again, going down in rotation order. Miami of Ohio and App State. So the Sun Belt with another team here. Now they're up against the MAC conference. Actually, the winners of the MAC conference, the champion here, Miami of Ohio. But they are the underdog, Matt. Plus 6.5, where it's App State minus 6.5 here, guys, and a low total of just 43. This is the Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida, played in the old Citrus Bowl, if you will. So Miami of Ohio, App State, second bowl up here, Matt.
So I saw you on a video, and we're going to disagree on this game, Drew. I have Miami plus 6 right now, and I have the App State team total under of 27.5. Now that one is heavily juiced now on DraftKings, so you're not going to be able to get that. But I'm a heavy believer in Miami, Ohio. So let's go over the transfer portal stuff here. When you look at the Red Hawks, obviously the number one guy that's missing this game is quarterback Avion Smith. Brett Gabbard's not playing in this game. So that means the quarterback is going to be Henry Hessen, who's 2 for 5 for 37 yards. He did that last year. He has 2 rushes for 17 yards. He's kind of a pro-style quarterback here. But you look at this Miami, Ohio team, they have a really good run. Gage Larvadane, who is their number 1 wide receiver, a very good wide receiver, should be 100% healthy for this game. He went down the stretch. So I really like what I see from Miami, Ohio, not to mention their whole defense is back. Graham Nicholson is their kicker. He is really good. He put his name in the portal, and then he decided to come back. So the unit I wanted the most intact here was Miami, Ohio's defense. You look at Appalachian State here. They come off of the loss in the Sun Belt title game. They were very poor in the beginning of the season, and they were very good down the stretch. But you look at this transfer portal, Deshaun Davis, who is 29 receptions, 381 yards, and 3 touchdowns. It's a wide receiver. Nate Noel, one of their better running backs, 834 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. Linebacker Donovan Spellman. These guys are in the transfer portal. There's about 8 total players in the transfer portal from Appalachian State. And I just think I was so mad because I don't have one of the books. This thing got to 7 yesterday, and I wanted to add on to my bet here with the 7. You could still buy the half a point depending upon your book and depending upon what the juice is, because there's a lot of 6.5s out there, as you mentioned. But I really like this Miami, Ohio team. All I want is their defense. All I think is the one weakness that App State has is their run defense. And Miami, Ohio can exploit it. They're going to run Amos. They're going to run their other running backs. They're going to occasionally do some play action and get the ball to Gage Larvadane. And guess what? If they don't, they're going to punt it and put their defense out there. And I like their defense against Joey Aguilar for App State. So one of the early positions I took Miami plus 6 in this game. And if it gets to 7, I'll add a little bit more to it. And then I took under 27.5 points for App State in this game.
All right. We are on opposite sides. I bet App State a little earlier, minus 5.5. But hey, Matt, that's what makes a market. So good analysis either way. We'll move down the list here. 207, 208, 545 Eastern kick. And this one in the New Mexico Bowl. And actually, New Mexico State, one of the participants. It's New Mexico State versus Fresno State, University Stadium, Albuquerque, New Mexico, in a situation where the Aggies have already won on this field. They beat New Mexico, the Lobos, earlier in the season. Now they're laying 3.5 as the favorite out of Conference USA up against the Mountain West in Fresno State, 51 being the total. Interesting matchup here with the Conference USA team laying 3 in the hook up against the Mountain West team. You wouldn't normally think that'd be the case, but we get it here, New Mexico Bowl. What are you liking with the Aggies and the Bulldogs, Matt?
By the way, I did forget one thing for the other game that we just talked about in Orlando, Drew. It's expected to have rain and pretty heavy winds. So that's going to also kind of hurt App State, who wants to throw the ball a little bit with Aguilar. That's another reason why I like the underdog there. New Mexico Bowl. So, it's interesting. Once again, this is a game, I think, with motivation where it does come into play. You look at Fresno State. They lost their last 3 games. I was so happy in terms of I had under 8 for Fresno State's wins. And it looked disastrous because they needed one more win down the stretch. They didn't get. I got a push. So I was very happy about that. They're 3-2 against bowl teams. Here's the most important thing for Fresno State. Jeff Tedford not coaching in this game. He's got a health issue. So it's the defensive line coach, I believe, Tim Skipper, who is coaching this game. So you're not getting the head coach. Like if Jeff Tedford was here, this line would be completely different because people would have more faith in Fresno State. Only 5 guys in the transfer portal here. Krishan Gordon, a cornerback who has a sack and 22 tackles. Linebacker Raymond Scott, who has 22 tackles. Backup quarterback Logan Fife, who, let's be honest, like you would ideally not see him. But if Mikey Keene, who has been injury prone in the past, gets hurt, then you're going to the third stringer here. On the other side, you've got New Mexico State, and you look at what New Mexico State last year, they so desperately wanted to be in this bowl. They got sent to Detroit. Now they're in this bowl, and there's talk of this the most ticket sales they've ever gotten for this bowl, and mostly because it is the Aggies. They're 3-2 against bowl teams this season. Diego Pavia is really good. He got hurt in the Liberty game, but it looks like he's going to be ready. Eli Stowers, the former quarterback from Texas A&M, Drew, he's a wide receiver for New Mexico State. He's going to play in this game. He had a concussion against Liberty. Their transfer portal guy, there's only two of note. Trent Hudson, who's a wide receiver, 35 receptions. He had 10 touchdowns this year receiving. Reggie Eccles, a corner, had 25 tackles and 6 passes defended here. Drew, I like New Mexico State here, but I feel like this number's starting to get a little bit high, just a little bit high. I'm not saying go run out there and take Fresno State. If for some reason there's some steam on Saturday that pushes this thing up even more, then maybe Fresno State becomes the play here. But I like New Mexico State here. I think that they're going to be able to move the ball offensively against a Fresno State team that lost 3 games down the stretch. They had an opportunity to play in the Mountain West title game, to get into a better bowl game, and they just – 2 of the teams they lost to, Drew, were bad teams. They lost to San Diego State and New Mexico down the stretch. So, like, they had everything in front of them. Now they don't. So I expect a lackluster effort here, Drew. I like New Mexico State, especially on the money line if you want to pair them off with somebody. But if this number keeps rising, I might be interested in buying back a little bit and taking Fresno State.
Yeah, good analysis there, Matt. You bring up Pavia, their quarterback. I think he's really good. I mean, he's like a kind of like a miniature Johnny Manziel, if you will. He kind of like goes back there making plays with his feet. He's a pretty good thrower of the football. He was a wrestler in high school. He's like a tough kid. But when he went out against Liberty in the Conference USA championship game, like they were going blow for blow with Liberty. He goes out and it changed the game. And you did mention there he's likely good to go. Like, where did you get that information? I haven't been able to find anything on it. They've been kind of tight-lipped.
Jerry Kill seems to intimate it, and there's some people on Twitter who cover the team who seem to think he is it, like he's been seen at practice and things like that. Okay. It's even funny, the Blaze kid who was the quarterback, he was all right. He actually moved the ball a little bit, but they just couldn't stop Liberty, and that's why they lost the game. If you want to make sure that Pavia is 100% before putting any bet down, that's for sure. You can do that. We know that there are some swerves occasionally in bowl season where a guy's supposed to play and he doesn't play, and so things like that. That's why I'm kind of worried here, Drew, as this line keeps going up a little bit, that maybe there starts to be some value on Fresno State. Because if Fresno State's focused, they could win this game. It's just no coach, a bad stretch down the stretch. That's kind of where I'm looking at here.
Yeah, their coach, he took like a medical leave of absence. No, great breakdown, man. I just did bring that up. The backup quarterback did come in. They hit like a big play, but then it kind of stalled out after that. That's just the one thing that I saw with New Mexico State. Next game up here, we get Inglewood, California, SoFi Stadium, the Los Angeles Bowl, and it is featuring UCLA and Boise State, the champion of the Mountain West. They knocked off UNLV there for the Mountain West championship game. Now find themselves in the LA Bowl, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 local time kick, 49 being the total. And we have seen the Bruins take some money here, Matt. Open 2.5. Now we're seeing it as high as -4.5. That's UCLA as the favorite. Boise State, I believe they have some opt-out or some transfers, if you will. The transfer portal hitting them a little bit. But what are you thinking, UCLA and Boise State?
Yeah, it's funny, Drew, because they actually don't for Boise State. The one that they have is Talon Green. He's going to Arkansas. So with him gone and Maddox Madsen is out for the season, that means they will be starting CJ Tiller, who's a freshman. He has not gotten any experience. And then they're going to also play Colt Fulton, who is a sophomore. So they're going to most likely try 2 different quarterbacks here. But I think they're going to be really motivated to be in this game and to play against UCLA. Their record against bowl teams, 5-4 so far this season. So they've done pretty well against the better competition. The complicated side, and it's so fascinating, Drew, that UCLA is taking money because I don't understand it. Let's look at UCLA. UCLA lost 3 of their last 4 games. They were ready to fire Chip Kelly. I think it was the Bruin Report on one of those rival sites that says like he's going to get fired at the end of the season. There was nothing confirmed by anybody else, but like there were reports on Twitter from the Bruin Report that basically said, or one of those message boards basically said he's gone. Their record against bowl teams, 2-4 this season. We'll start the coaches they've lost, Drew. They lost their defensive coordinator to USC. They lost their quarterback coach to Oregon. Their tight end coach is going to be the head coach at Austin Peay. I mean, that's 3 losses right there. Let's continue. Transfer portal. Their 5-star starting quarterback, Dante Moore, gone. Wide receiver, Keegan Jones, who's not bad. Cam Brown, also gone. Tight end, Carson Ryan, who had 3 touchdowns. That's the offensive side. Defensive side, safety, William Nimmo. Safety, Kamari Ramsey. Their best corner, John Humphrey, all transfer portal. Leatu Alatu is opting out for the NFL draft. He had 13 sacks and 2 interceptions. And then there's the whole thing that Carson Steele, the running back, wasn't seen at practice on Monday and Tuesday, and his status is completely up in the air. There's people who think he might opt out. There's people who think he might declare for the draft, whatever. He might not play in this game. So you're kind of basing this bet off of, are you ready to bet on a lot of UCLA backups? Let's put this out here. Drew, I don't think a lot of people from UCLA are going to this game. I mean, I think people are assuming that UCLA is home, that it's going to be a UCLA crowd. I think we're going to see a lot of Boise State fans here. And so I'm almost apt, Drew, to kind of wait and let this thing see if it goes up a little bit more. I don't think it will, but let's see if I can bleed another half point of value here. To me, Boise State's the side if I was to play anything. And here's the other key real quick. We give you the information. I give you my leans. I give you all this stuff. I'm not playing all these games. And that's the best part. We've always talked about it on our part of the podcast, Drew. They've got to put lines out for every game. We don't have to bet every game. So if you disagree with my analysis and you want to take UCLA, fine. If you don't like necessarily everything I'm saying and you don't want to play the game, that's the best decision here. But my lean is to Boise State, especially if this thing goes up even a little bit more.
Matt, I was thinking about that. How motivated would UCLA be with some of their coaches leaving, things of that nature? But I think that there would be a lot of Bruins fans there. I mean, it's in the new or the newer NFL stadium. If I was in the Southern California area and I went to UCLA, I'd be all over this game. That's just what I was thinking. If you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, however you're doing it, let us know if you're out there, if you think it will be a good crowd. But you think it's going to be a no-show from the Bruins faithful?
I don't know, but I think there'll be a lot of Boise State people there. And I just look with that California game told me something, Drew. And now I think I do want to point this out. We talked about it because it was in our segment. UCLA against the spread after the USC game, especially after USC victories, they're terrible. So that's why they didn't play very well against Cal. But there's just so many things going against this team. You're basically asking yourself, are UCLA's backups, who are still probably pretty good, better than Boise State starters? And the most important thing here, Drew, Ashton Genty and George Holani, the 2 running backs for Boise State, as of now, they're both playing, and they could just run the ball, and the 3rd-string quarterback won't have to do very much.
Good stuff, Matt. We got the nightcap here to kick off bowl season, 9:15 Eastern, 6:15 Pacific. Cal and Texas Tech. And this one in Independence Stadium, Shreveport, Louisiana, for the Independence Bowl. Pac-12 versus Big 12 here. Matt, 56.5 being the total, -3 across the board. That is the Red Raiders as the favorite. Do want to note what Taj Boyd, their running back, I believe is going to play in this game. And he's a heck of a player. I'm surprised he's not going to the NFL after watching him play. But I'll throw it over to you. What do you think of Cal and Texas Tech?
First of all, I'll tell you, I got nothing betting wise in this game, but it's because there's a lot of information. Let's start out with Cal, Drew. Cal's 1-6 against bowl teams. The Cal's only in this game pretty much because they beat UCLA. Their quarterback is going to be Fernando Mendoza, which is not bad. And their backups are going to be a kid named Brummel and a kid named Tyler Jensen. Sam Jackson, the 5th, won't play in this game. And the Finley kid, he's been out of the picture for a while. Cal lost their offensive coordinator to Baylor. Their offensive line coach is calling plays in this game. In the transfer portal, their leading tackler, a really good corner, basically 8 players overall, and a wide receiver named Taj Davis is no longer with the program. He had nearly 400 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. That's Cal. On the Texas Tech side, Texas Tech is 2-5 against bowl teams. They are going to have the Morton kid at quarterback, most likely, and he's going to be probably pretty close to 100%. But let's look at the transfer portal. Wide receiver Jaron Bradley, who had 4 touchdowns. Miles Price, who had 5 touchdowns. Their starting left tackle, Monroe Mills, who's pretty much played every snap this season. So you're basically asking the blindside tackle, who's going to be a brand new player, to go out there for this bowl game. There's about 10 players overall, some depth pieces in other places. No Jalen Hutchings. He's the defensive tackle, 44 tackles, 3.5 sacks. He's out due to surgery. So to me, Drew, as I said, there's a lot of things here. I don't have a lean here. I don't really know. Cal has not shown me anything with the games against bowl teams. Texas Tech also has a losing record against bowl teams. You go with the team who probably has the better quarterback in Texas Tech, but I got nothing here, Drew. Do you have a lean on this game?
I absolutely do. I kind of led into it on the tee off in Taj Boyd playing, or their running back Boyd, I believe is his last name.
Brooks.
When you watch him play, he runs downhill, man. He was running over people. I think I could see that happening again. I actually laid the 3 with Texas Tech, and I'm excited for this one. The nightcap on Saturday. It should be a good one, nationally televised there. And actually, guys, we're going to reverse a little bit because we are going down in rotation order. The little numbers next to the team name, every game on the board, wherever you're downloading your podcasts at. Google Play. We got Apple Podcasts. It is up there. Every game on the board. 213, 214. This is actually kicking us off on Saturday. Georgia Southern in Ohio. This is Brooks Stadium, Conway, South Carolina. They're near Myrtle Beach. It's where Coastal Carolina plays their home games. The Myrtle Beach Bowl, -3 or -3.5. That's Georgia Southern as the favorite. 49 being the total. It's Georgia Southern from the Sun Belt Conference in Ohio from the MAC Conference. This is a pretty good one. First bowl game of the season. What do you like in Myrtle Beach Bowl?
Yeah, we got a position in this one. We'll get to it in just a second. Georgia Southern, we'll start. This is the easiest one. Georgia Southern lost 4 games to finish out their season. They're 2-6 against bowl teams, but no one awful is in their transfer portal, and almost everybody's healthy in this game. So, like, everything for Georgia Southern is telling me they are motivated to be in this game. Obviously, also, they've kind of been down to South Carolina, I'm sure, at some point because they play Coastal Carolina. So it's not like this is an unfamiliar territory for them. That was the easy side. Here's the rough side. Ohio, 2-2 against bowl teams so far this season. The transfer portal features the following: the starting quarterback, Curtis Rourke, who is a large part of this offense. Running backs, Sia Bengora, who had 7 rushing touchdowns. O'Shawn Allison, who had another 3 rushing touchdowns. So that's their top 2 running backs. Wide receivers, Miles Cross, who has 617 yards and 5 touchdowns. Tyler Walton, who has 349 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's their top quarterback, their top 2 running backs, their top 2 wide receivers. Their backup quarterback was already out. So they're now going to the third quarterback, which is UCF transfer Parker Navarro. He is 7 of 10, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception in 5 games. He's mobile, so that always helps. Like, mobility is always crucial for this sort of thing, and Georgia Southern's defense is not very good. Also for Ohio, linebacker Keith Thompson is out. He has 94 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and an interception. Ohio's offense wasn't good with all these people in. I can't imagine what Ohio's offense is going to look like. Sam Wigler, as of now, is going to be the only wide receiver, it feels like, and he had a subpar season after last year when he was awesome. I took the under on the team total for Ohio at 23.5. Now I'm nervous because, as I said, Georgia Southern's defense is awful, but they've got all their guys and they seem motivated. And you've got an Ohio team. I don't know who's running the ball. Actually, excuse me. Parker Navarro is the leading returning rusher for this game and the leading returning passer with everybody else. So whoever they start at running back has less rushing yards than their quarterback does. That's why I'm getting involved with Ohio's team total under here, 23.5. Look, obviously, I wish I got 24.5. It's a key number, but they heavily juice it. The books know that, so they heavily juice the key numbers. I'll take the under in 23.5 and hope that the really bad defense of Georgia Southern plays well enough to basically hold off a backup crew that Ohio has.
I agree with you. I bet it in different ways, but it's definitely correlated. I bet the under in the game, and also Georgia Southern. Mainly when the Sun Belt and the MAC go up against each other, more times than not going to be on the Sun Belt, guys. I just again, going back to that stat, since 2014, the best winning percentage in out of any conference in the MAC, usually up against it from an athletic standpoint in bowl season. So that is the bowl games for Saturday, kickoff Saturday of bowl season. That's this Saturday, the 16th. We got next game up Monday, but first, do want to give a shout out to the sponsors of the show, BetOnline, betonline.ag. The game starts here in Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. You can get it ordered to your house. If you haven't tried it yet, you should, guys. 4 great flavors, 4.5% ABV, 0 sugar as well. We got Western Kentucky and Old Dominion up next. This is 2:30 on Monday, December 18th. The famous Toastery Bowl, Jerry Richardson Stadium, Charlotte, North Carolina. This is where the Charlotte 49ers play their home games. So we get a little midday Monday bowl season, Matt, with the Hilltoppers and the Monarchs. We are seeing Old Dominion -2 or -2.5 point favorites, 54.5 the total.
So I had the Old Dominion head coach on my radio show last week, and they're motivated. They're highly excited to play in this game, and that's always half the battle here. Here's the complicating factor, Drew. We'll start out with Western Kentucky. They're 1-5 against both teams. Their only win was against South Florida. Now, if you look at the transfer portal, their 3 starting offensive linemen are in the transfer portal. Starting corner Upton Stout was in the transfer portal. Starting linebacker Desmond Baker is also in the transfer portal. Starting safety Talik Allen is in the transfer portal. And there's Twitter rumblings say that Austin Reed is not going to play in this game and that their backup is also in the transfer portal, but he's staying around the team. So it would be the third stringer, which is the coach's son at quarterback. Now, here's the thing, Drew. Western Kentucky last year had several guys in the transfer portal and let them play anyway. And we'll talk about that being key for another game coming up. But so the thing is, we have no idea what's going on with Western Kentucky. And the coach is contributing to it. They talked to him about it. They asked him all these questions, and he gave very ambiguous answers. He's like, the guys who are available are practicing. He wouldn't give anything away. So in theory, if you're missing 3 offensive linemen and 3 key players of your defense, that would kind of tell me something. But there's a chance they're all going to play, and we don't know 100% on Austin Reed. Let's go to the ODU side. ODU has played 10 one-score games so far this season. They're 4-5 versus bowl teams. They've got a hefty list, too, in the transfer portal. Wide receivers Javon Harvey and Jordan Bly, who both have touchdowns. Safety Terry Jones, who has 107 tackles. Defensive tackle Devin Epps, who has 20 tackles. Their punter is in the portal, and he's very good. And then also linebacker Jason Henderson is missing the game with an injury. He is the nation's leading tackler. So there's a lot of question marks involving this game, Drew. I would lean to Old Dominion here. And I'll tell you this, if you like Western Kentucky, maybe wait until closer to see if some of these guys are going to play, depending upon what happens. Like, that's the problem with this game, Drew, is we're just not going to get any information until, 30 minutes before kickoff when so-and-so is practicing on the field and looks like he's going to play, even though he's in the transfer portal. So this is a really tough game to handicap, Drew. I lean to Old Dominion because of the motivation factor. They've got their own losses, but it's hard to guess who's going to be under center for Western Kentucky until literally probably like 30 minutes before kickoff.
Like it, Matt. Yeah, that's a little appetizer for Monday Night Football. Then we go to Tuesday action. UTSA in Marshall, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. The Frisco Bowl, Toyota Stadium, Frisco, Texas. -13. That's the Roadrunners as the favorite. 53 being the total here. So we get an almost 2-touchdown favorite, lower total, UTSA and Marshall. Interesting matchup, Thundering Herd and the Roadrunners, Matt.
So I'll make this one relatively short. I hesitate usually to lay double digits in bowl season. Weird stuff happens. UTSA is going to win this game. It's just by how much. The only transfer portal guy for them is their defensive end, Trey Moore, who has 14 sacks. That's rather large, but Marshall's just is ravaged. So Marshall lost 6 of 8 down the stretch. They're 4-6 against bowl teams. Here's their transfer portal. Cam Fancher's in the transfer portal. I don't know if that's a bad thing or not. I didn't think he was a very good quarterback. Starting offensive lineman Trent Holler is on the transfer portal, and wide receiver Caleb Combs, who had 39 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Cole Pennington will be their starting quarterback. He had 0 touchdowns and 6 interceptions this season. So he's absolutely atrocious. They have a new offensive coordinator. It hasn't come out yet because obviously the books are very hesitant on this sort of thing, but I'll probably be looking at a Marshall team total under. I don't know how they score in this game. Cole Pennington's a terrible quarterback. They have a new offensive coordinator. One of their better wide receivers is out, and I'll guess that there's a chance Rasheen Ali is out. I have no knowledge about that, but we haven't heard about Rasheen Ali. What's the point for him to play in this game? I think UTSA can name their score in this situation. I'll be looking at the Marshall team total under. I'm hoping for like a 17.5, maybe an 18.5. I don't know how Marshall scores in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Their offense was terrible. Is UTSA's coach still there, or did he get a bigger job?
No, he flirted with others, but he's still there.
Yeah, that could also be a handicapping factor here, guys. We also got Thursday, December 21st. Matt, I'm going to need a bet from you here because I looked at this one and I don't know. It's ugly. USF and Syracuse. Syracuse fell off the map. USF, they showed up in some games, others not so much. It's the Boca Raton Bowl, FAU Stadium, where the Owls play their home games. Syracuse, -3-point favorites, 61 being the total. primetime Thursday night Boca Raton Bowl, Matt?
This is so tough, Drew. Here's the funny thing. Neither of these two teams have beaten anybody that made a bowl. I mean, my math could be wrong. Syracuse is 0-6. USF is 0-4. You're looking at USF, first bowl since 2018, so you know they're going to be motivated. Their transfer portal as of now. Now, obviously, look, Drew, we're going down the line here. This is the 21st. We're a week away, so things could change. More people can enter the transfer portal. Somebody could get hurt. Things could change. But as of now, it looks like USF is pretty much intact. They got one kid in there who's had 15 tackles. Syracuse has about 2 or 3 players in there that could be of note. 2 of them on the defensive side. One's a wide receiver. Syracuse obviously has an interim coach, but the players really like this guy. So I think we're going to have 2 motivated teams here, Drew. I just don't know what to expect. Garrett Schrader, by all accounts, should be 100% healthy or as close to healthy as possible for this game. I don't know what to say. I just, both these teams stink in terms of, like, how do you not have a win against a bowl team? Like, obviously you got here because you beat the bad teams on your schedule. I almost think, Drew, and this, you could tell me if you agree, there's 2 fast teams, 2 defenses that aren't very good. I almost want to play the over. Now, the other thing you have to watch for if you bet the over here, it is Boca Raton, Florida. It is a week away, so we can't predict what the weather is going to be. If it's rainy and miserable and windy and everything, like, then your over's blown out of the water here. But my only lean as of now on December 14th is kind of a crazy over here, just assuming both teams have fun on offense.
Sure, I can see it. Yeah, like a Boca Raton Bowl, loose atmosphere. I'll be in attendance. So if you hit me up on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets, guys, anybody in South Florida heading to this one. But I could definitely see that over. We are seeing 61, and it has been touched up since 57 at the opener. Schrader being in, if he's 100% healthy as well, would be a big factor for the Orange offense. We got next game up Friday. Raymond James Stadium, Gasparilla Bowl, 6:30 Eastern, UCF in Georgia Tech. We are seeing the Knights -4.5 point road favorites, 64.5 being the total. Like this matchup, Matt. Big 12, ACC. We get in my opinion, 2 good coaches going at it. You liking anything in Tampa?
So as some of you will notice as you watch the video, there's going to be information for a lot of these games, but it's going to be less than we had for the games that are coming up on Saturday. UCF is 2-5 against bowl teams this season. Their transfer portal guy, the only one I see is cornerback Corey Thornton, who had 3 interceptions, 27 tackles. Bit of a concern because UCF's defense wasn't very good in Big 12 play. And then on the Georgia Tech side, they went 3-6 against bowl teams. They have 2 starters on defense who are transfer portal. Kyle Kennard, 53 tackles, 6 sacks and an interception, and Keenan Johnson, 29 tackles, 1 INT, and 2 forced fumbles. So Georgia Tech, whose defense also wasn't necessarily the greatest, much like the game we just talked about, Drew, I would lean over here almost. Once again, it is Tampa, Florida. It is now, we're 8 days away, so you can't predict the weather. But I feel like, Drew, much like the last game, UCF, if John Reese Plumlee plays in this game, if Haynes King plays, or if Georgia Tech's offense is pretty much intact, I could see a lot of points in this one. And much like you just said, another loose atmosphere down in Florida.
Saturday, December 23rd, next game up, 12 noon Eastern, kicking us off. Birmingham, Alabama, Birmingham Bowl here. Duke and Troy. Troy Trojans, this is a good team, Matt. -7.5, -8 as the favorite. Low total, 44.5. So it's Duke versus Troy. That Duke defensive front was really good. So we see it in the low total. But this Troy defense was, they were pretty stout. You like it anything with the Trojans and the Blue Devils?
So Troy lost their head coach, obviously. He went to Tulane. So their defensive coordinator is going to be the interim head coach. And it looks like a lot of the coaches that were supposed to leave are going to stay. It looks like maybe at least the defensive coordinator is going to stay because he's the interim head coach. You look at Troy's transfer portal stuff, just the linebacker, Jaden McDonald, who had 9.5 tackles for loss. So they're pretty much intact. And obviously they're going to be excited playing an ACC team. Let's go to the Duke side, Drew. Their head coach left. Obviously, Mike Elko is gone. Their associate head coach is going to be the interim head coach. Duke went 4-4 against bowl teams, so that's pretty good. Here's where the difference happens. And you talked about their defense. We'll get to the defense in just a second. No Riley Leonard. He's obviously a Notre Dame. No Jordan Waters and Jaquez Moore, who had a lot of rushes between the two of them. So that's their top 2 running backs. On the defensive side, no R.J. Oben, a defensive lineman who had 5 sacks. No Aeneas Peoples, who had 4 sacks on the defensive line. No Dorian Mozzie, who's a starting linebacker. He had 61 tackles and half a sack. No starting defensive back / kick returner Jalen Stinson, who had 82 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 INT. Their leading running back is Jalen Coleman, who had 37 carries, and their starting quarterback is going to be Grayson Loftus, who wasn't bad. He had 8 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions here. There are a couple of other guys that we should watch, obviously, as we get closer. Dwayne Carter, who is a defensive lineman, he got a Senior Bowl invite. Also, Graham Barton, who's a really good offensive lineman. You got to just kind of watch as we get closer what people are saying. Will they actually play in the game? You may see opt-outs happen closer to the contest, so certainly that's something to watch here. But, Drew, I don't know how Duke scores in this game. If Troy shows up motivated, which I expect them to be, their defensive coordinator is the head coach, so I expect their defense to be fine. I'll be looking, and obviously it's not even out yet, but I'll be looking at the Duke team total under here, and I might even be involved with Troy because I think they're going to win this game rather easily.
Matt, we got Northern Illinois and Arkansas State up next. My screen actually went black, so I'll just throw it over to you. Next bowl game up, also 12 noon Eastern on Saturday.
Yeah, this one's a fun one because Arkansas State is a team that didn't expect to be here, and they I think they're going to be really motivated. First bowl since 2019 for Arkansas State here. Their record versus bowl teams, though, 2-6, not necessarily great. Pretty clean with regards to who's in the transfer portal. Javante Mackey, 84 tackles, 2 sacks. Caden Lewis had 12 tackles as a defensive lineman. But other than that, though, they're going to be pretty much intact, it feels like. On the Northern Illinois side, you've got a team who is 3-1 in bowl game against bowl teams. Their portal losses are relatively minimal. It looked like they were going to lose Trayvon Rudolph, the wide receiver, but he's coming back. I don't expect a lot of offense in this game necessarily, although Arkansas State, they made a quarterback change halfway through the season and started playing so much better here, Drew. I lean Arkansas State. We just talked about it. You brought it up. Sunbelt versus the MAC. You usually lean to the Sunbelt here. You're essentially getting Arkansas State at, even money here. I'll take Arkansas State here early on. Now, of course, this game is December 23rd, 9 days away. You have to feel really strong in your position if you want to take it now because things could certainly change. But I really like this Red Wolves team.
Matt, a team I know you know a lot about, James Madison up against Air Force, that JMU defense getting a lot of time to prepare for the option attack, and we are seeing a minus 2.5-point favorites. You like anything JMU into Air Force?
So if everybody doesn't know, Kurt Cignetti's gone. He went to Indiana. Terrible decision, but whatever. He left for the money. And he basically took almost everybody from the staff with him. So their guy, who is the head coach now, is the offensive line coach. I had him on my show. Great guy. He seems to be very ready for this game, very motivated for this game. But they only had one offensive coach still left. That's him. And 3 defensive coaches left. So they went out and hired a bunch of coaches to help out with this game plan. They hired a option expert. They hired some other people who helped out. So I'm really excited for this. Now, here's the key. A lot of people are going to see there's a ton of guys in the transfer portal, the starting quarterback. Like most of their starting defense is in the transfer portal. Only Mikhail Kamara is not going to play in this game. Everybody else is playing in this game. Now, that's tremendous for the handicap. Plus, JMU's 8-1 against bowl teams so far this season. You know they're going to be ultimately motivated. And for a lot of people, this could be their last game in the JMU uniform. The one thing I'm concerned about, and I got to shove my homerism aside because I want JMU to win this game, with the lack of coaches, Drew, like that's a bit of a concern here. And you have guys coming in who are helping out, who help with the triple option. Like, can JMU make the adjustments? It would almost make sense to maybe take JMU in the first half because they're going to be ready. But then you wonder if the head coaching disadvantage at halftime is going to hurt them. And maybe you look to come back on Air Force in the second half because a guy like Troy Calhoun can go out there and make a lot of changes for this team. Air Force lost 4 in a row down the stretch. It looks like Zach Larrier is going to play in this game. That's going to make a huge difference for this thing. I almost feel like, Drew, the formula here is JMU in the first half. They have a solid game plan. They have a solid understanding of the triple option. And then you come back almost on Air Force in the second half when they can make more adjustments because they have the better coaching staff.
Matt, we go from JMU Air Force to Georgia State and Utah State, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 local time. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. We are seeing -1. That's Utah State as the slight favorite. Sunbelt here against Mountain West. What do you think in Georgia State and Utah State?
I'll get this out of the way. Utah State, while 0-6 against bowl teams, They're pretty clean when it comes to transfer portal stuff. Like, there's nothing right now. Obviously, as we said, this game is on December 23rd, so things can change. But as of now, everybody seems to be available. That's always a good sign, especially when you look at they're playing in Boise. Like Utah State, this is not a bad trip for them. They've been to Boise. Probably a lot of these players have played in Boise. I forgot to look if they've actually played in Boise this year. So this is not a bad trip for them. Now you look at Georgia State. Lost 5 games in a row to end the season. They're 3-6 against bowl teams. Here's their transfer portal. This is fun. Starting running back Marcus Carroll, who's really good, rushed for 1,350 yards and 13 touchdowns. His backup, Casey Adams. Wide receiver Robert Lewis, who had 70 receptions and 7 touchdowns. Their right tackle, Montavious Cunningham. On the defensive side, Bryquise Browns, excuse me if I mispronounce somebody's name. He has an interception. He's a cornerback. Safety Jalen Tate. So there's a lot of people out for this game for Georgia State, Drew. I kind of lean to the team who's played in Boise before. I kind of lean to the Utah State team who's going to be motivated for this game as of now. And so that's where I'm going here. I'm going with Utah State.
All right, Matt. Talking another Sun Belt team is the Sun Belt strong showing here in bowl season. It's South Alabama in Eastern Michigan. So it's the Sun Belt versus the MAC again. This is the 68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. So it's not good. It's actually South Alabama is in Mobile, minus 16.5. And if you like South Alabama, the Jaguars, I recommend going to betonline.ag. The game starts here. Sponsor of the show because they are just hanging a 16. So that's the low water mark. 46 being the total. South Alabama in Eastern Michigan, Matt.
My lean to this game is the under. Two crucial things for South Alabama. Colin Lacey, who is their wide receiver, has 91 receptions, over 1,300 yards receiving. He's in the transfer portal. And LaDamian Webb, their star running back, has opted out in this game. So that's 2 key pieces to South Alabama's team. Now, they do have some other very good wide receivers, so it's not like their offense is going to be bad. Eastern Michigan, we love, I kind of have the soft spot in my heart for Eastern Michigan, Drew, although they kind of let me down the stretch. But we know what Chris Creighton does in games where they're huge underdogs. They somehow cover. Here's the question for them. Their transfer portal stuff. Austin Smith is their starting quarterback. He's in the transfer portal. I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing. Their offense wasn't great anyway. So maybe with a fresh quarterback in there, they'll play better. Also in the transfer portal, starting defensive end Micah Coleman, he had 4 sacks. Defensive lineman Alex Merritt, he had 23 tackles. A guard, Zach Conti, he is also in the transfer portal. He's their starting guard. To me, I wonder how much Eastern Michigan's going to score in this situation. Ike Udengwu is going to be their starting quarterback. He has 13 to 28, 100 yards passing, and 2 interceptions, no touchdowns so far this season. He was kind of the guy that came in. They ran certain packages and stuff with him. So I don't know how they're going to score. I'll be looking at an Eastern Michigan team total under here, Drew. I'm definitely looking at the under here. And to me, unless some massive defensive players on either side of the ball opt out here, I'm definitely looking under.
All right, Matt, just 2 games left here, guys, for this section. We will have more bowl every game on the board podcast, wherever you're downloading your podcasts at Google, Apple, every game on the board. Utah and Northwestern, Pac-12, Big Ten here. Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Bowl, minus 6.5. That's the Utes as the road favorite. If you like the underdog, check out betonline.ag as they are hanging a 7, a little bit off market, 42 being the total. Utes and Northwestern, Las Vegas Bowl, Matt.
So Utah's lost 3 of their last 5. They're 3-4 against bowl teams. Here's their transfer portal stuff. QB Bryson Barnes is in the transfer portal, but he says he's going to play in the bowl game. He wants to close out his career playing in this bowl game. Devon Valley, I might have botched that name, but Valley, their number 1 wide receiver, he is opting out for this game. Mikey Matthews, another wide receiver who had almost 30 receptions, is in the transfer portal. Jatravis Broughton, who's a cornerback for them, 36 tackles this season. He's opting out. And normally in this situation, Drew, I'd say, what's Utah's motivation? But I have so much respect for Kyle Whittingham here that I almost feel like he's going to get this team up and ready for this game. On the Northwestern side, Northwestern's one of the best stories in college football. All the stuff they went through before the season, no one expected them to be in a bowl game. So they're going to want to be here. Their transfer portal stuff, pretty clene right now. Just a guard, Josh Preby. They're 3-4 against bowl teams. So it's not like they've played against played badly against good teams. I almost want to lean Northwestern here, Drew. It scares me them going up against Kyle Whittingham, who I think will have some stuff for his team. But the lean has to be Northwestern here, the team that wants to be in this bowl game against the team who may not necessarily want to be there.
Sure. Yeah. I remember Kyle Whittingham in Boise. He was like the best, but I think that was a few years ago. I don't know if he's still on that same run that he has been. We got last game here, guys. Then we'll try to wiggle a best bet out of Matt. Coastal Carolina and San Jose State, 10:30 nightcap here this Saturday, December 23rd in the Hawaii Bowl, usually on Christmas Eve. It's going to be sad not having it on Christmas Eve, but hey, it is what it is. 54 being the total. We're seeing San Jose State minus 10-point home favorites. Far trip here for Coastal Carolina. Probably the furthest trip you could possibly have. But anyway, throw it over to you for the Chanticleers and the Spartans, Matt.
This always feels like an over, Drew. I mean, and you're right. When it was Christmas Eve, like playing Christmas Eve in Hawaii, it always felt like an over. It felt like, let's just let loose. We're in Hawaii. All right, so let's go over these two teams real quick. San Jose State, they won 6 straight down the stretch. Shame on the Mountain West for using the nerd numbers instead of actually trying to decide this on the field. San Jose State probably should have been in the Mountain West championship game, but they decided to use the computers instead of like the on the field stuff or trying to figure out some sort of better tiebreaker. So San Jose State fell short. They actually played at Hawaii this year on October 28th, so they've made this trip already, which I think is an advantage here, Drew, because these teams that make this first trip to Hawaii, you know, you're in Hawaii around Christmas. Like, how are you not going to just let loose a little bit? So I think it's an advantage that San Jose State has made this trip before. Real quick, transfer portal, just 2 guys so far. Excuse me, 2 guys so far. Left tackle Fernando Carmona and tight end Dominic Mazzotti, who has 23 receptions, 322 yards and 2 touchdowns for San Jose State. Coastal Carolina, obviously Sunbelt team, 6-4 versus bowl teams. They're going to start Ethan Vasco at quarterback. He was pretty good this season. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, because Grayson McCall, Jared Gast, the number 1 wide receiver, Jared Brown, CJ Beasley, a running back, all in the transfer portal. But once again, much like Western Kentucky, there is a chance some of these guys may play in the game. So that's something we certainly want to watch as we get closer. To me, Drew, this feels like another over. San Jose State's defense was not very good this season. Coastal Carolina's defense is not very good this season. Both teams play, if I remember correctly, Coastal's definitely slow. I think San Jose State's a little bit on the slower side, which is a bit of a concern. But Siobhan Cordero is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league down the stretch. I think both of these teams score at will on each other. I kind of like the over, but of course the caveat is let's make sure that there's no other opt-outs before then. Make sure Cordero is playing in this game. But as of now, I like the over in this game.
Yeah, good spot to throw out there, guys. 53.5 is available. It's 54 pretty much across the board, but the one shop showing 53 in the hook. If you do like the over, which I do, it sounds like Matt does as well, check out betonline.ag. They're hanging the low water mark there, 53.5 for the Hawaii Bowl. Next one up will be Bowling Green in Minnesota, the Quick Lane Bowl, but that not till Tuesday, December 26th after Christmas. We will be back with another bowl pod before then. Every game on the board. Matt, throw it over to you. Final thoughts. What do you got for best bet out of all these games?
So basically, hopefully it was a lot of information we threw at you, and obviously certainly things can change between now and kickoff. You just can't treat these games like they're in-season non-conference games. That's just, there's too many circumstances that change for everybody. I think my number 1 pick here is under 23.5 points for Ohio. No, for those who didn't see that part, no starting quarterback, no backup quarterback, no top 2 running backs, no top 2 wide receivers. And the transfer backup who's going to play in this game, Parker Navarro, has only attempted 10 passes this season. Georgia Southern's defense is really bad, but they're intact. And Georgia Southern wants to be in this game. It feels like Ohio doesn't. Their offense was bad when all these guys were in there. How good's it going to be without those guys? So give me under 23.5 points for Ohio as my best bet in this section.
Great job, as always. Follow him on Twitter at MidMajorMatt, ESPN Richmond. Guys, we will be back probably before Christmas, next Every Game on the Board podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Cash those tickets. Check out betonline.ag. The game starts here. Viva tequilaseltzer.com. Happy holidays out there. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you're celebrating, feel free to comment below. And please like and subscribe to the podcast. For Mid-Major Matt, I am Drew Martin. That does it for part number 1. Bowl season, every game on the board. Thanks for tuning in.